Tigard City Council and Local Contract Review Board and Town Center Development Agency meeting to order. City Recorder Krieger, please call roll.
Councilor Wolf.
I never go first. Here.
Council President Hu.
Here.
Mayor Lube.
Here.
Youth Councilor Vogel is excused. Councilor Shaw.
Here.
Councilor Singh.
Here.
All right, if everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council or city teammates, any non-agenda items this evening to add?
None for us, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. We will start off with council liaison reports. I did ask in general for this to be moved up to the beginning. It felt like having it at the end, we all sort of felt rushed because they were long meetings and we would rush to get through. But I think the work that we do as committee members is incredibly important. And I want to make sure our community member hears what we're up to. Would anyone like to go first? Yeah, Councilor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. It was a busy month. The Tigard Transportation Committee met, and we, the committee and staff talked about doing a final review and then a print and a digital copy of a Tigard bike map. So really exciting. It's a new Tigard bike map. It's going to include elevations, transit connections. So look out for that hopefully soon. I know Council President who is very excited about that. They also reviewed the parking committee report and then also talked about some projects and constructions that's going on about town, which I think we've all had the updates between 99W and Main Street. Parks and Recreation Board did not meet. It's August. They have the summer month off. The Water Advisory Board, I could not attend. I had a conflict with the Town Center Tigard Triangle bus tour. However, there's no anomalies to the water, and the next meeting is going to be October 11th. The last meeting was April 12th. We also got a Reservoir 18 update. So again, no anomalies. Charter Review, last night was our last meeting. So excellent community gathering as far as those who participated, showed up just about each and every time. Excellent staff between our city attorney and Kim also, who represented and just did a phenomenal job. So a shout out to all those community members who attended, and looking forward to coming to the council. I believe it's September 19th. So look forward to that report. And that is it.
Sounds good. Councilor Singh?
Yeah, I don't have that much. Just attended the police levy renewal subcommittee meeting. We talked about polling and community engagement. That's pretty much it.
Sounds good. Councilor Wolf, are you ready to go?
Yeah. Actually, a variety of the committees did take August as a summer break. The audit committee had its kickoff, and I think that was an update to the council, just meeting with Moss Adams, who's the auditors, as they get prepared to do field work, updates on any new gap or changes to accounting procedures that have to be followed. Great conversation around the criteria to be a committee member, and just appreciate Finance Director King's leadership, and yeah, it was good. And I think we talked a little bit about the community meeting as well, Committee for Community Engagement, which I think was actually July. So I think that's it for me. It was a quick month.
They seem to be going quicker and quicker. Council President here?
Yes, Mayor. The Town Center Advisory Commission, as Councilor Shaw mentioned, went on a 3-hour bus tour last Wednesday of the Tigard Triangle area. We stopped at several key points, including the Red Rock Creek Commons, which is a permanent affordable housing units, and also a bridge to home next door, which is supported by Tualatin.
Family
Family Promises, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so, and we also stopped at the Tigard Cinema site, former Tigard Cinema site, where you know, we have to do a very, imagine very hard of what the Red Rock Creek trail would look like in the future, but it's very exciting. So overall, it's very exciting to see a bunch of projects that's being funded by the TIF funding, which we'll talk about tonight, and that's all I have today.
Thank you for that. I'll start with the Region 1 ACT meeting last week. We met in Hood River and beforehand had the opportunity to do a Mitchell Point Tunnel tour before it is open to the public, which I believe is next year. It's a tunnel which was the route of the original, what's I-84 now. But a couple of the things that were really cool about it that I learned is it was the first highway that was intended for automobiles, and the way that it carved through the mountains and the scenery actually ended up being a model for the rest of the country on how to do roads in the future. So it's actually a pretty big deal. There's still a section of what is going to be a trail that it hasn't been funded yet, but ideally you would be able to ride from Troutdale to Hood River on your bike safely and not interact with cars, which is a pretty cool thing considering how stunning that area is. So if you want to see pictures, I've got cool pictures. Please come see it. But then the Region 1 ACT meeting took place in Hood River, and we really got an overview of projects that are going on in the region. And it doesn't affect Tigard directly, but it's important as sitting on the Region 1 ACT and looking at transportation on a regional level, and the fact that many of our community members go out there to recreate. I ran into some in the parking lot, actually. And we did have a really great conversation with Oregon Transportation Chair Julie Brown and the new Commissioner Jeff Baker just about the role of the R1 Act and whether it's advisory or like a two-way street, what that is, and spoke about our goals for transportation. I spoke about the need to think of all road users, not just bikes, or not just automobiles, because that's the way our transportation systems have been brought up. And many of our community members don't want to get in cars to get around. And so regionally, we need to think about prioritizing that for our community. We just had the Washington County Coordinating meeting yesterday. And one of the things, just to flag all of you, we're continuing to watch the tolling discussions and Nexus projects. And so we're ensuring that all of our projects that could potentially be funded are in the plan, although it's unclear if there's going to be any funding, or if there is funding, what that may look like in comparison to the number of plans that would qualify. So paying attention on that. Our relationship with the University of Wisconsin-Madison did wrap up this past week. I was unable to watch the final presentation, but Assistant City Manager Nyland said it was awesome. I look forward to looking through the materials, and I believe we are hoping to get one of the students here to do a presentation to present to us. I will say it's past their school semester, trimester sort of a thing, so it would be on their own personal time. But we hope to get them here, and if not, we will certainly pass along their project that they presented to us. TTSD and the City of Tigard had a communications retreat that several members of the Tigard teammates attended, as well as Councilor Wolf and myself. And it was a really great opportunity to talk about what the goals for TTSD is, what our goals are, and how we really can work in alignment, because we serve one community. We're not just two government agencies, but how do we make sure that our goals are in alignment, our projects, our communication tools, and really using one voice to ensure that we do handoffs as well when they involve the other. The last thing that I will talk about, it's a lot of talking. Last week I was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, words I never thought I'd say, to attend the Mayor's Innovation Project's sort of summer retreat. And part of the reason I went is because I don't think I would ever go to Scranton, Pennsylvania for any reason. And it was a really great opportunity to learn about Scranton. It's a community that used to be about 140,000 people. It's now 70,000 people. And learning the history of the mining town. Fun fact, I actually got to go into a coal mine, both a little scary and weird and very, very cool, especially learning about the history of what the miners went through and the kids that worked in the mine, and really the history of the community. We talked about private sector job quality, EV fleet transitions, fiscal transparency and community trust, tenant protections and rental housing quality, as well as many, many conversations one-on-ones with the mayors across the country who attended. It's a really cool organization that the mayors group is smaller and really innovative, and all of the mayors there are in alignment with the way that our community is going, and so it's a really cool sort of think tank for what we do. And more, please ask if you have any questions. I'd be happy to share my notes or any ideas that will be going to City Manager Reimer soon. I think that the city teammates are always thrilled when we go to conferences and have a list of ideas and just use afterwards. So, anybody have any questions about anything that was discussed? No? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to public comment. If you'd like to make public comment, please call now to get into the queue. The phone number is 503-966-4101. Anyone present wishing to comment should sign up at the front of the room on the public comment form. And we will turn it over to Assistant City Manager Nyland for previous public comment report.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Way back in July 25th to be exact, we had a number of public comments from a variety of sources. We had 3 written comments, 1 in person and 2 by phone. 1 written comment was about discrimination and policies around equity, and this is a frequent contributor, so we have responded to him prior. The other 2 comments were focused on fireworks. We haven't said fireworks in this meeting, so I thought it would be a good time to say it now. Our in-person comment focused on growth, specifically about urban sprawl and our dependence on cars. They supported the concept plan for River Terrace 2.0. As far as the callers, 1 also talked about fireworks and wanted to be a resource so Tigard could be a safer place, and the other caller expressed thoughts about investments, specifically wondering about the funding in a contract for police vehicles. We did follow up with all individuals, whether that was an acknowledgement that their comment was received or we provided more information about their issue, and in some cases a counselor may have provided additional information as well. That is my report back on public comment. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. We did not receive any written public comments by noon yesterday on Monday. City Recorder Krager, do we have anyone signed up to speak in person today?
No.
I'm looking around the room and I'm assuming no.
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Thornburg, are there any phone callers in the queue? Or any video?
None at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is a police chief update, and we have Chief McAlpine here to give her report. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, Kathy McAlpine, Police Chief. A little bit of a different take today, maybe just jazz it up a little bit because of the heat and everything else that's going on. But the first, though, I do want to always talk about crime, where we're trending. And it'll come back to us, I'm sure. Specifically, I pulled out property crimes. Overall, we're still trending better than we did last year. But a couple things, it's not indicative of the burglaries, but it's a good PSA at this point. And that is when we have such extreme heat, we tend to leave windows, doors open at night, rightly so, to cool ourselves off. We're not seeing people entering in those open spaces, but we are going to send out an announcement just reminding people, extra caution. If you're going to do your door ajar, maybe put a stick in so they can't get the whole body and things of that nature. But under thefts, one of the things we saw an uptick in why it's so important when we can have some proactive time was a particular hotel was getting hit hard with vehicle thefts. Vehicle prowl is what I call. And the graveyard sergeant at this time was driving around paying some attention to that and was able to see a vehicle slow crawling in the garage area, and long and short of it was able to contact 3 individuals that had a stolen handgun, all the burglary tools, shaved keys, gloves, you know, everything, warrants, the whole bit. And we have not had any incidences in that location since that arrest. So that was good to know. And the vandalism, again, is reflective of still some of the graffiti that we're seeing. We've seen some new graffiti. We are aware and working with Washington County as a whole. We've seen an uptick in our youth, in particular Hispanic gangs. We're seeing some tagging associated to that and some actual physical fights at the mall regarding these individuals. So we have a meeting with Washington County coming up. We'll talk about that and see if there's anything we proactively can do. So those are the ones I wanted to highlight because I wanted to give you an opportunity to see our very first official recruitment video. So if we can play that, I would like to take my time for you to view that. But you really got to be able to hear Kelsey's voice. So Eric, it is not, the volume is not playing.
Sorry, stand by.
Okay. While Eric is queuing that up, I will say, we gave 2 conditional offers, and so it is moving along. We're still not seeing a large volume, but we're seeing some good quality candidates. And when they get to my level of a chief's interview, a lot of them just really talk about our online presence and how we, brand our branding, market it, and they feel like this is a place that they want to work and feel really connected. So that says a lot about our folks that are managing that, and obviously our department employees as well. How we doing, Eric?
We can ask any questions in the meantime to fill the space if you'd like.
Yeah.
Does that work? Does anybody, I have a couple questions. Okay, seeing no questions, I will ask my questions.
Certainly.
So it looks like burglary has doubled. Do you have any insight? Like, is it anything specific or any trending that people can be aware of?
Which is why I asked, and specifically, especially if it related to the heat, and no, not any one particular trend. There is, under other is still, and that is still, which is the highest number, and that is continuing. And that started again when changes came of protocols in COVID time and how people were able to access more things remotely. I have not heard a lot of change in that protocol since we're coming out of COVID time, but we're still seeing those, but we do have some workable leads.
Gotcha.
And think that a particular group is responsible, so I'm hopeful on that.
My other question may be directed.
What does it take to be a guardian of the community, a protector of all people? What does it look like to lead with character and integrity, when you're wearing a badge and when you're not? We are the Tigard Police Department, rising to the challenge, caring with compassion, helping people on their worst days, giving it our all every day. We do it because we care about this community. Whether on patrol, serving on special teams, or digging deeper on investigations. We hold ourselves to the highest standards in attitude, leadership, integrity, service, and teamwork. That's why doing all this isn't a job, it's a calling. Do you hear it?
Needless to say, I'm a little bit proud of the work that was done on this. Made me want to join again. But anyway, it is now out there in a lot of different markets of Indeed and some of the other platforms. So I hope to kind of gauge if they got to see the video, if it resonated with them, and if we can see an uptick in applications. So stand by. And then the last slide, I think most of you will recall this, but again, wanted to highlight as we've come out of COVID was National Night Out. So Eric, if you wouldn't mind playing that, sort of. Well, it's not quite coming out. It's about a 10-second loop, but again, it's all the photos, and most of you are there, but you didn't get to go to all of the different, community events. Just a reminder, we had 22 registered, up from 17 last year. Larger groups, very diverse in both, age, gender, diversity. It was just a great time to connect. And with this last group but historically, National Night Out was designed for community members to get together, get to know each other. We're safer when we know our neighbors, know what's going on, communicate. Back in the 80s, it involved then police doing any crime prevention or connecting on a very positive. And then it's just continued to grow. We have the fire department, we have the electeds, and connecting with our community. And I just had an absolutely wonderful time. People were thirsty for that connection, and it just seemed like it was a very positive attitude out there. And like I said, I know you had all your individual experiences as well, but wanted to share that with the community, that it was a good time, and hopefully encourage others to maybe think about hosting in their neighborhood as well. Didn't quite go the way I was hoped that presentation would go. It was supposed to be on 10-second loops and a lot of photos, and but I think you guys were there and you kind of know. But I'm happy to answer any questions. But that is my presentation for tonight.
No, I will say National Night Out, the 22 different parties, as you stated, everyone that we went to, it was very engaging to talk to them about, I always like asking, how's it going in Tigard for you? What do you like? What's a challenge for you? And I think it's a really great opportunity to connect with community members. And I hope everybody took it seriously, that I warned you that they will try to feed you and give you drinks and food, and it's just such a wonderful time. I've loved some communities I have visited every year that I have gone, and it's great to see year after year, hey, what's going on now? And there was one the first year, Commander McDonald listened to their concern and followed up and fixed something in their neighborhood, and the next year fixed something else that they were having challenges with. And so rather than them going out, we are going and building community with them in their neighborhoods. And it's such a great experience. Thank you for, driving me around. It was awesome.
It was a lot of fun, and for your first times, I don't know if you have anything else that you guys but it's great to see you. And again, this was, I think we're growing again, and like I said, coming out of the COVID times, and it was this was the most officers we've been able to put out there and show a little bit more of our tools and tricks. And you can see, obviously, the drone is very, very popular with our youth, and but having a motorcycle out there and some of the other things, and spending 22 growing, but it also allowed us to still have quality time at these events and not feeling like you're just, hi, how are you? And then I'm going to hit all these others. By dividing and conquer, as you did and as a PD did, we were able to actually stay and visit for a respectable amount of time.
Did you have a comment for National Night Out?
What impressed me was not only the amount we had this year, but also the diversity and the age. But I met a 1-month-old and then a 97-year-old, and it was just fantastic, and just see that community spirit. And then after, I had one question or comment about the video.
Okay.
Any National Night Out? Yeah, Councilor Wolf?
I will follow Councilor Shaw, but I do have a question about the video. But just kudos to the city, and ditto to just the experience. Really enjoyed talking to community members, and just such a wonderful reception to city police officers, and just really enjoyed the evening. So it's a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also a wonderful night for me too, my first time, and be able to connect with so many community members. And in that cul-de-sac, I met with a couple moved just from Shanghai, China, a week earlier, and they were very appreciative that they don't speak English very well, but I was able to communicate with them in Chinese, and it's my pleasure to connect with them, to make them feel welcome to our community. So it's a great experience. So thank you.
And I like as you mentioned, coming back and seeing people again. And so in the last event we were at, new family the year before, coming from California, and was just taking it all in, and it was really just getting to know his neighbors. So it was a great event. Come back this year, how's it going? He's still smiling, got to meet his kids, and just really appreciating living in Tigard, and enjoyed it. So yeah, it was a good time.
Councillor Shaw, do you want to start your questions on the video?
Yeah, not so much a question, but a comment. Fantastic. In the last month and a half, I've had an opportunity to meet with different community members, but also I was at a dinner, and two of the individuals happen to be police officers from other cities. So I recruited, and now I'll have a great opportunity to point them to the video. So thank you.
No, appreciate that. And we've already had one request from another agency to ask us how we did that. That's the biggest compliment sometimes, besides recruiting and getting people apply, is other people want to kind of steal your concepts.
Maybe if you want to slow roll that response, let ours sit out there a little bit longer. Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, would appreciate to share that also on social media, on my own pages. But Chief, what I wanted to clarify is, now from this past legislative session, right, they have funded additional training, so hopefully that process will go quicker, or more opportunities as well. I was just thinking about the yay for recruiting and hopefully training as well.
Yes, thank you. On August 21st, I just got the email seeing if I was available to be present when the governor signs DPSST's new budget that will allow, to expand to 20 basic academies, and I'm going to try and make it up there, but it's at 1 or 1:30. She's going to sign that and approve that budget. So, yes, thank you. Appreciate all the support.
My question, I think, is actually going to be probably a little bit more directed to City Manager Reimer. The discussion on vandalism and tagging reminded me that we had asked about a possible program to leverage perhaps Metro Payne and community members, and I just wanted to check in because I think we haven't heard back. It just flagged my memory.
So due to Nicole's efforts, we were successfully awarded the $5,000 grant. I don't have information right now on the implementation of that, but I don't know if Kathy, if you have anything else, or
It's being developed, the memo, so you will have more information in the coming weeks. But it was in our check-in today.
Okay, just for anyone who's watching, more information coming and in the next couple of weeks on the program. Perfect, excellent, thank you for the update. Any other additional questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the Chamber of Commerce update, and we have past Board Chair Michelle Cheney here to give a report, and it will be her last report before Council.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I had written down that I wanted to make a comment about Neighborhood Night Out before the chief even brought it up, so I love that we're all on the same wavelength. I'll just give you a little history. My name is Michelle Cheney. I am the now past chair of the Tigard Chamber of Commerce. I've lived here for 19 years, and we did a neighbor night out like 10 years ago when Mayor Cook was still mayor, and he drove up on a four-wheeler from the police department, and they had a canine unit come, and that was the talk of the neighborhood. And my daughter's 17 now, and she still remembers that. So I just wanted you all to know that kids remember, and they remember the good associations that they had with our police department and with our officials. And so thank you. I saw a lot of those photos already on Facebook, and it was great. So thank you for supporting the community like that. Wearing my chamber hat now. We are still recruiting for Leadership Tigard, and so we thank the city for their support and invite any of you all to come to our program. We have about 10 more openings, and all the details can be found on our Leadership Tigard page, so thank you for that. Under our pillar of education advocacy and building a strong local economy, our GAP committee is taking a break for the summer, and we will reconvene in September. And our goal for next year is, for 2024, is to raise over $10,000 for scholarships for our local graduating seniors, and to contact our CEO for more details if you'd like to contribute to our efforts. As far as promoting community, we've seen a lot of ribbon cuttings, and we thank all of you for coming to those. We really appreciate your support for our incoming businesses. And we are proud to announce that we have Good Morning Tigard spots booked through the end of this year every Thursday morning. And so please look at our calendar if you'd like to join us for any of our networking events. Tigard Farmers Market update. We are still going strong on Sundays through October. That's from 9 to 1:30. We have about 30 to 35 vendors per week. And there's still scholarship or sponsorships available if you'd like to support our kids programming. And just the business update that we give every year or every month, that businesses are still in recovery mode. So we appreciate your sensitivity that not all industries have fully recovered yet from COVID. And I thank you all for the opportunity to come to these meetings, and I appreciate your warm welcome, and I've enjoyed my time here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Michelle? No? Yeah. Good. Thank you for coming, and I will also say, you know, it's a lot of fun to go to ribbon cuttings and seeing the excitement of new beginnings in our community. And, you know, as I say, Tigard's open for business. We'd love to have you. Come join us. Thank you. The next item on our agenda tonight is a community organization update, and we have Portland Community College with us tonight. We have PCC Government Relation Manager Colette Tipper, Community Relation Manager Alfredo Moreno, and Program Dean of
Advanced manufacturing.
Thank you. I was like, I don't even, mechatronics?
Yes.
What is that? I mean, as a sidebar. Can you turn on your microphone?
So mechatronics is, it's really a set of principles, and it includes principles such as pneumatics, electronics. Mecha is mechanics, and tronics is electronics. So somebody really smart put those two words together, and it's really foundational information for folks who are moving into advanced manufacturing careers. And actually, we offer a one-year certificate in it so that students can get a good foundation in those skills to help them move forward.
That's really cool. So Program Dean of Mechatronics, Electronics, Advanced Manufacturing Technologies, Carrie Weichel Delaplane.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. And I love it because we can ask questions like that in person about the cool stuff going on in our community. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
The only thing I will ask is sometimes there's feedback, so if you're not talking, please turn your microphone back off.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me? How close do I need to be to this thing? All right. Well, I guess maybe really quickly we should just introduce her. Well, you know Carrie, that's Alfredo, I'm Colette, sorry. You just did that anyway. So could you go to the next slide, please? I will give a quick overview of kind of broad strokes of PCC. We are the largest post-secondary institution in the state, and we serve over 50,000 students a year. We're also one of the most diverse institutions in the state. We serve about 1/3 students of color across our district, and we are an emerging Hispanic serving institution. We broadly focus on equitable student access and success, and really focus on outreach and support for underrepresented populations. We have 4 comprehensive campuses, 10 centers, and dozens of independent locations throughout our service district, including corrections education. And we're also one of the largest employers in the metro region. We employ over 3,500 full-time employees annually. and PCC Sylvania's campus is actually the closest campus to Tigard.
So now to me, again, I'm Carrie Weigel-Delaplane, and I'm a proud resident of Tigard. Love it here. It's a great city. And I'm thrilled to get to talk to you all today about PCC. And I've been in my role, I've been at PCC now for 9 years and lived in Tigard now for 6. And I'm right over at Sylvania. And now that I've been in this particular role for a couple of years, it's like, okay, what are we gonna do in Tigard? Like, how do we work together? And how can we really come up with some innovative ways to bring training and support to the residents of Tigard from PCC? And so I'm really eager to partner with you all in ways that make sense. We're really excited to get to be a part of the Tigard community. We have a couple of programs that I want to highlight at our Sylvania campus for you. Am I going too slow? Oh, next slide, please. Am I going too slow? I like to chat. So 2 of the programs, actually, I've got one in my back pocket I want to talk about too. But 2 of the programs at Sylvania that I'd like to highlight are nursing and automotive service technology. It's not on the slide, but I also want to tell you a little bit about machining too. So I don't get to work closely with nursing and automotive service, but they're 2 awesome programs that train people for high-wage, high-demand employment. And the nursing program has boasted about 100% job placement for our 2019 class. They were either employed as a nurse or got employment in that field within 6 months. We often have waiting lists for nursing, and we've also been able to develop pathways into nursing, different short-term and workforce development trainings that can help people get those basic skills, and then if they're not able to get into the nursing program, they can try again and keep growing and learning and advancing their career in that way. The HT building, our health technology building, has just been finished being redone, and so students this fall are going to come in to see a beautiful new state-of-the-art facility for our healthcare programs. We're really excited about that facility, and maybe we can give you a tour someday of it. The other program I wanted to highlight is the automotive service. We have a 2-year degree or a certificate. In our automotive service program, students get trained. It's often incumbent workers we see, but it can be students just entering the field, and when they complete their certificate or degree, they can move into an apprenticeship kind of program as a mechanic. So it's just another really great opportunity to work with your hands, get high-wage, high-demand careers, and right around the corner at Sylvania. The third program I just wanted to speak to is one of my programs in advanced manufacturing at Sylvania, and it's our metal machining program, metals and machining. And we have a shop at Sylvania, and we have a beautiful maker space that we're opening as well that just can't wait to open it up to the community. It's got 3D printers. I mean, not that that's that crazy, but it's like just this beautiful facility for people to come and make, and we're really eager to open it to the public. Now, with the machining program, we're working with local employers to build out short-term credentials, short-term workforce trainings, so we can help build that entry-level pipeline for industry, but then also move people towards getting their degree if they want to advance their careers in machining. And I just wanted to mention it because we do a lot of dual credit with Tigard, and I think even though we do offer a lot of dual credit and articulate that, I think there's still opportunities for more. And I'm really eager to discuss that with the schools and see what we can do. So next slide, please. So this is also a little bit more about some of my programs. One of the programs is microelectronics, and that is preparing folks to work in the semiconductor industry. As you probably all know, semiconductor is one of our biggest employers in the whole state and offers an amazing opportunity for our community members to enter into these great jobs. part of the issue is that folks may not even know these jobs exist. I wanted to mention that today because I want you all to be my ambassadors and help people know that the semiconductor industry is an industry just like machining and any kind of advanced manufacturing. These aren't dirty jobs necessarily in factories. They are high-paying, highly skilled jobs that are in a clean and as safe as possible environment. And we've got a lot of different entry points for people. We actually have a 2-week Quick Start program right now that's running at our Opportunity Center at Willow Creek. It's a partnership with Work Systems, Intel, PCC, and we've had students go through this 2-week training. They're compensated for the training because we know that low-wage earners often can't make that choice between training and work. So we've been able to find funding through Work Systems to go ahead and fund people to take the training. All the completers of this 2-week training are guaranteed an interview with Intel and other semiconductor companies. And so far we've had about 60% placement of those individuals. There's a long waiting list, and so I mentioned that we're looking at building some short-term trainings like that in machining as well, and possibly in some other areas. So our microelectronics program, what we're really trying to do in all our advanced manufacturing programs is help people see that pathway between the entry level, the dual credit in the high school, the workforce development trainings, and how that can lead through jobs and training all the way to a doctorate if people want to go that direction. So we're really trying to work hard with industry as well as our workforce boards in our cities to look at how can we support people in understanding all the options really that are available to them and what that trajectory can look like from a number of different starting points and entry points and exit points. So this pathway from the Quick Start into where we're actually offering folks a $1,000 scholarship if they want to continue on at PCC, because we really want to incentivize people to just keep growing and just keep going. And in a lot of the cases, folks get tuition reimbursement from their employers while they're doing it. So we're, again, just trying to really build an awesome path for people to get involved in these high-wage careers. Finally, I wanted to mention to you that we also are about to do a chain cutting sometime soon this fall. We'll be releasing or celebrating a mobile welding unit. We've partnered with Union Pacific Railroad. They generously gifted us about $500,000 to fab out a mobile welding trailer. And our mobile welding trailer that we have is going to be dynamic. It's branded for PCC and Union Pacific and Vigor. We have a shipyard. We're at the shipyard in Vigor for welding up in North Portland, and they've been really generous and have helped us a lot with this project. But we're going to have a trailer with 6 welding booths, full welding booths, all process. We also have aluminum welders that we've invested in because we know that that's an emerging industry as well. And so we're really interested in meeting with folks like you, especially in my hometown, to talk about getting this trailer out on the road and looking at ways that we can train people. You know, traffic's no joke, right? 99, 217, 5, like all of them. And we know at PCC that it's important to not just have students come to us, but find innovative ways to come to the students. And we know a lot of our community members, it's a hardship to have to come to a campus. So this is going to be a really cool way to bring welding to people and help get people certified. We'll be able to certify people in the truck. And so we're just, hopefully you'll be able to see that, I mean, we're a huge organization. You're just getting 3 of us, but we're really here to serve our communities and really care about our communities. And I, for one, am really excited in my role to look at how we can partner together to build a stronger community through education. Thank you.
Next slide, please. And then another area where we have a lot of really good, local business foundation partnerships is for our Future Connect program. And that program identifies youth that are typically first-generation students, high potential high school youth, serves about 850 to 1,000 students a year. And those students then receive scholarships and services specifically designed to help them succeed in college. That includes a new student orientation, a student success coach, peer connection opportunities, job and internship resources, and then connections to four-year universities should that be the path that they want to go on. And these students typically complete more credits in their first year than their peers, and they're persisting and transferring and succeeding at nearly twice the rate of their peers as well, so it's a really great program. Unfortunately, that's another program where we've had to waitlist a lot of students. During the 2022-23 school year, we had to put about 47% of applicants on a wait list. And we just know that increasing investments in these programs really helps students succeed. So we're hoping to kind of look at ways to expand that program as well. That program focuses on school districts, so we partner with school districts specifically, and then those students go on into the Future Connect program. So that's another possible area of partnership.
Okay, can I get the next slide, please? I'm Alfredo Moreno, and some of you may know me from a role just a little bit further north, but I am here in my PCC role, which I'm so proud to be here today, and thanks to Mayor Lube for the invitation for us to come visit with you. Quickly, so I'm the Community Relations Manager for the west side of the College Service District. PCC, probably unbeknownst to most, has been doing a fairly major renovation, kind of like you would a kitchen and bedrooms and bathrooms. Outside we look more or less the same, but we have really retooled how we are as an organization from a campus structure where each campus had its own administration and priorities to a one college model for academics, student support, and community engagement. So part of my role is taking on a much broader territory, and as I started to peel things back, I realized for probably a variety of reasons, we simply did not have the depth of relationships that we should have down in Tigard and in other areas out on the west side. So over the past year plus, I would say I've been really focused on kind of doing what I can to nourish those relationships, to cultivate them. As we've said, Sylvania is less than 4 miles up the road. It's our largest campus in the PCC district. So Tigard organization, City of Tigard, should be one of our absolute strongest partners across the board. So we're working on that. Let's see, up here on the slide, you can see, I have been honored to be an ex officio on the board for the Tigard Chamber. It's been a great way. We were not members of the board, of the chamber 2 years ago, and they have really been very open to kind of seeing how we can partner, how we can reach students, connect with small businesses, larger businesses, and that has been a relationship that has really started to flower, working with Megan and Michelle and Tom there at the chamber. There's plenty more that we can do, but it's been a great start. I love this photo. We had a great time at the Shining Stars event, where we were able to present a scholarship to a first-gen Tigard High School student, and that is our current board chair, Lori Cremona Wagner, who is very happy to be on stage to present. These are the kind of things we want to show up and be here in the community. And I would say, in my role, I'm kind of, I try to be everywhere. I have a very large district, but I try to show up as often as I can. And I would appreciate from any of you all, if there's a place that PCC should be, or you're not sure maybe they should be there, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Colette. Even Carrie, although it's not her job, she's just so great at it. I would hate to deny you that honor. But we want to be present, and so you can see some of the ways that we have been partnering with Tigard Tualatin School District, and have a great working relationship with Dr. Sue Reekie-Smith, and for college access and dual credit before students even exit Tigard High School. They're they're ramping up their college careers, and we're proud to be a part of that. So bottom line, there's more that we can do, and we know that. So my role is to be an access point for you. If you don't know who else to call, please call me, and I will connect you with smart, capable people. Every once in a while, I might have an answer as well. But I think we can go to the next, possibly final slide. But this is all of our contact info. Yeah, we are eager to be here for Tigard, and hope that you all will think of us as strong partners and collaborators on the goals that you have as a city. So, thank you. Good? All right.
All right. Thank you. Question? Yeah, Councilor Shaw.
Not question, but thank you very much for the presentation. Very excited. I was a student at PCC, got to go and take Spanish. It was a wonderful experience. And Carrie, I'm so glad you're a resident. I came out of the semiconductor industry, spent over 19 years. I've never met someone as excited about it as me, as you.
What?
So
Yes.
really look forward to. I'm excited very excited what you're doing with our high schools and really being a feeder
Fantastic.
program. It's clean tech jobs, high wage jobs.
Yes.
It's in our backyard. It's in the state of Oregon.
Absolutely.
So thank you, and thank you each for what you're doing. So sorry, Mayor, I just
Thank
get very
you.
enthusiastic about
Appreciate it.
semiconductors.
No, I mean, I got excited just listening to you too. I was like, yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Absolutely.
can.
I've brought you all measuring tapes too. We measure our success by the success of our students.
Dang.
And I would just want you all to have a little token of our appreciation.
Oh, this is so fun. Yes, I'm all for it. While you're handing those out, I believe Council President Hu has some questions.
Well, thank you all for coming, and Alfredo, I think you're doing a great job. I only been on the council for 7 months, and I see you 4 or 5 times at different events already. So you're doing a great job for PCC. So
I would say the same for you. We're like the Roy Kents of community engagement. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere.
yeah, and thank you for highlighting the science and tech aspect of PCC. Thank you. And I just want to mention that the museum that you invited me to at the Rock Creek campus, I want to brought up that culture aspect of PCC. I didn't realize it's a depository of all the culture artifacts in Washington County, and you have partnered with Beaverton and even Tigard on various cultural display of our history, not just from white settler point of view, but from Native American, from non-European migrants' point of view. So again, so thank you for that, because seeing history from different perspective, at least for me, make me feel even more welcome. It's like I'm not the first people like me to be here. There were people like me here before. So I will encourage you to continue to partner with Tigard Library. I know our library staff directors online to have more of that kind of cultural display, displaying our history from a different perspective, and I would really appreciate that. So thank you so much for the work you do.
Sure, and I will just say, yeah, we are a proud partner of the Five Oaks Museum. Full disclosure, I'm on their board as well, based at the Rock Creek campus, and that has been a long-time partnership. And so, yeah, for sure, PCC has a number of on-campus partners and off-campus partners, but yeah, anything we can do to advance both workforce training, but also just greater community good and understanding is absolutely part of the mission. So.
You sound very busy with all the things that you do. It's
I
a
haven't
lot
even
in
mentioned
this
my
room.
kids yet. Yeah.
Councilor Wolf.
Just a comment and a quick question. So to Councilor Shaw's enthusiasm, I served 12 years on the Tigard Tualatin School Board and mentored at Tigard High for about a decade for students' college career. So definitely appreciate everything that you're doing to support our high school students, and also appreciate the demand, right, in the wait list. And the other piece in that, how can we partner? So how do we take those next steps to expand citizens or community members in Tigard and to get them directed along with our students. So really excited for the presentation. Thank you for being here. And I'm all in on whatever that means. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I've got some comments, sorry. A couple of things. I just, I start to think of, it sounds like students are covered, right? Great relationship with TTSD and a partnership of how to move, high school students on. But I think about members of our community, and I'm specifically thinking of, one of my goals broader is it's very expensive to live in Tigard, right? And these are the kinds of jobs, entry level, which will allow people to stay in the communities that they call their homes. So how do we connect with those individuals who are not high school aged, who could be in some of our subsidized housing or lower income areas, that we connect with them and say, we have this 2-week program that could change your life and it could change your opportunities. So thinking about different ways that we connect with them, maybe over transportation, or we're putting in some electronic bikes into places. Maybe somehow we can partner in that kind of way. Or thinking about, we have our street fair coming up September 9th. Maybe there's a booth that you have where you can connect with community members about the things that you have going on. Tigard Downtown Association is the one running the street fair, and there's probably still booths available. And also just thinking about, maybe it's opening up our community room at the library and saying, have you ever thought about a career in here? And having, different members of different departments say, are you interested in this? We have this 2-week program where you can do it. Or maybe there's a scholarship that can help you get started. Because I think about it, I'm a first-generation American with no generational wealth. And, getting started for me, it was an education, and part of it was getting dual credits in high school, so I didn't have to pay as much for college to get ahead, and getting to buy a house and building, more generational wealth that way. But how can we do that for the rest of our community members who are continuing to struggle? So, as Councilor Wolf said, I'm also all in, and I'm in for creative ways that we can leverage the way that we're already connecting with community to think of it more holistically. So, yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for getting us all excited and jazzed up about, bettering our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. And this is for the Tigard City Council and Local Contract Review Board. The consent agenda is used for routine items, including minutes and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. Items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. I have been made aware that we want 5D pulled. So we will consider the consent agenda as amended for items A through C for this point. Didn't mean to steal your thunder, I just knew it was coming. Okay. Are there any motions?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. All of those in favor to approve the consent agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion was adopted by unanimous vote of the council. And now we will discuss the Safe Streets for All SS4A resolution of commitment.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I'd ask that this be pulled off on behalf of the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee, and I do recognize that David Roth, who's the principal transportation planner, is here as well. The committee thought it was important enough and asked me as a counselor if I could read just briefly, not the whole resolution, but just highlighted portions, and then we could take a vote on it. Terrific. So this is City of Tigard, Oregon, Tigard City Council resolution, and it's whereas the life, health, and safety of all persons living and traveling within the City of Tigard are our utmost priority, and no one should die or be seriously injured while traveling on our city streets and roads. And whereas deaths and serious injuries on Tigard streets and roads are unacceptable. And whereas traffic fatalities are a national public health crisis and the leading cause of death for Americans under the age of 54, killing over 100 people every day. And whereas the City of Tigard is working towards reducing vehicle speeds, and I know that's happened in my neighborhood, so thank you, Tigard, across the city to improve safety outcomes as traffic crashes have increased, whereas the City of Tigard adopted Complete Streets policy, the 2040 Transportation System Plan, the Strategic Plan Vision, and as well as adopted the 2023-2025 Tigard City Goals, which also calls for enhancing our community safety and accessibility with a desired outcome of improved traffic safety and provisions of equitable mobility options in support of our climate goals. And whereas it is the desire of the City of Tigard to formalize a commitment to a safe systems approach to prioritize transportation safety and climate traffic deaths and serious injuries. So with that, Mayor, I'd like to request that resolution number 2325 be approved by the council.
Are you moving?
I'm moving. And this is my first time I've actually taken something off consent in 3 years.
I'll second.
The motion to approve resolution 23-25 has been moved and seconded. Since it's we can still do general voice, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mayor,
Oh,
sorry. So I have written to staff making a small making a request to make a small amendment that after the word mistake to link it to crashes, and I don't think the staff have any problem with that. So I would like to make a motion to amend that language just a little bit.
okay. Can you be clear in your motion?
I will try to. I don't have it right in front of me, but I move to amend the resolution to add that can lead to traffic crashes after the word make mistakes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And I'm looking at Dave. You have the notes because we'll have to hand change. Perfect. Okay. The amendment has been moved and seconded. All of those in favor of changing that verbiage, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the amendment passes. I apologize, any additional discussion on the original motion on the table? Okay, seeing none, all of those in favor to approve resolution 23-25 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the resolution passes. Thank you, everybody. And I did realize earlier in the consent agenda, I normally read off the items, and I did not do that. So for anybody who doesn't have the agenda in front of them, on the consent agenda that was approved includes a contract for safe routes to school improvements near Templeton and Tuolumne schools, which is very exciting, and we should applaud on its own. A contract for the Tigard Enterprise Resource Planning Project staffing, and a contract for pavement management program rehabilitation. Okay, moving on, we will convene the Town Center Development Agency for the next two agenda items. And the next item on the agenda is the City Center TIF plan update. And we have redevelopment manager Fairley and consultant Nick Papanek for this update. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Lube and directors of the Town Center Development Agency. My name is Sean Fairley. And in June, the board received an update on the City Center TIF district plan, focusing on the background and the implementation to date. The board also requested a review of the district's financial capacity. Tonight we have an in-progress update on a financial plan that we're developing for the City Center TIF district. We'll be scheduling a follow-up with more complete information later this fall. But in 2021, an amendment was passed, and that increased the total maximum indebtedness available to $42.8 million. And the last borrowing that could be made would be in 2035. So for those at home who may not be familiar with what maximum indebtedness is, it's just generally the amount that the district is authorized to borrow to pay for projects that are in the TIF district plan, and that has to be spent within the district. And these borrowings are repaid with property taxes that are generated in the district. So this is the tax increment that is in tax increment financing. It's that portion of the property tax that increases after the district starts. And by law, tax increment has to be used to pay off debt. So that's why we talk about maximum indebtedness. The first thing we wanted to do in developing the plan is to confirm that we were on track to generate enough TIF by 2035 that we could comfortably borrow up to the maximum indebtedness. So together working with Eric Kang from the Finance Department, we brought in Tiberius Solutions, Nick Popenick, who is on Teams, to run some scenarios and crunch some numbers. So I'll turn it over to Nick for his findings.
All right, thank you, Sean. Hopefully folks can hear me okay. Great. So as Sean said, I'm with Tiberius Solutions. We're a public finance company based in Oregon, and I've been doing this type of public finance consulting work for close to 20 years now. When we're looking at forecasting tax revenues and financial capacity for an urban renewal area, it's often helpful to look at different scenarios because we are talking about a long time frame. In this particular case, extending that forecast out through 2035, so we're looking at a 12-year time frame, and trying to understand how real estate development, property appreciation, and financial markets are going to change over the next 6 to 12 months is a problem, let alone 12 years. So with the city, we came up with 4 different scenarios that we ran here. A high, medium, and low scenario where we were varying key assumptions on the assessed value growth as well as the financing terms for new debt that would be taken out. And after reviewing those 3 scenarios, we ran a 4th scenario that we refer to as the mixed scenario. And in that we had our most conservative assumptions in terms of assessed value growth, but we had our more optimistic and aggressive assumptions for future financing terms. And we're focusing on this one to say, even if the assessed value growth here is slower than we hope, slower than we forecast, will we still be able to achieve the full amount of maximum indebtedness here if there are positive and optimistic and aggressive financing terms? And the result of that analysis was yes, we do look like we are on track, that even in a scenario where we have sluggish growth in assessed value here, there are ways to structure financing agreements that you'd be able to incur nearly the full amount of your maximum indebtedness, if not the full amount, by that 2035 sunset date. So that's good news overall. Hopefully, the actual future looks a lot more like the medium or high scenarios where we have more robust growth in assessed value in the area. Some of the key assumptions that we're talking about here in terms of assessed value growth and financing terms. On the assessed value growth, we're looking at largely the amount of new construction that takes place in the area. So Oregon's property tax system limits the growth in assessed value from existing properties to only 3% per year. And so across the board, you see virtually every jurisdiction in the state see at least 3% growth in their tax base every year. But in order to get above that 3% baseline, you usually have to have new construction occurring. And so the amount of new construction is what determines whether that's going to look more like 3.5%, 4.5%, or 5.5% growth per year. There are some headwinds that this urban renewal area, and in fact many urban renewal areas across the state, are facing right now when it comes to looking at the growth in assessed value from new construction. One of the things is that new construction doesn't get brought on to the tax rolls at a value equal to its real market value. So if somebody builds a new $10 million apartment complex, that actually only adds about $3 million of assessed value to the tax rolls. And that's a complicated calculation that goes on at the countywide level with the county assessor's office. But that ratio of assessed value to real market value has been steadily declining in recent years. And so it means you get less bang for your buck with new construction efforts. On top of that, many communities, including the city of Tigard, are actively exploring ways to incentivize new housing production. And one of the ways that's been happening is through the state Vertical Housing Development Zone program. And that program results in qualifying projects having a 10-year property tax abatement. So that also means when new construction happens in this area, if it's mixed-use multifamily construction, it can qualify for that abatement. And that's reduces the assessed value for that 10-year period until it comes back onto the tax rolls. So those two factors are challenges for many urban renewal areas in the state of Oregon right now. What that means is we see a lot of slow and steady growth instead of any sort of rapid but volatile growth in assessed value. The particular assumption that we've looked at for this area has two known projects, the Atwell off Main, that's already completed construction, but has a large chunk of its value that is currently exempt through that vertical housing tax abatement. And that project is going to have roughly $7 million of assessed value get added back onto the tax rolls in 2026. So that'll be a nice boost to the tax rolls at that point in time. And then there's another project on Southwest Main that's anticipated to complete construction in 2026, though it will have that 10-year abatement, and so you won't see some of that value come on the tax rolls for a decade until 2036. Beyond those two projects, we looked at speculative growth in the area, and in the scenario that we focused on, we are only assuming a 0.5% growth each year in terms of the tax base from that new construction. So instead of 3%, which is what you'd expect if everything was just appreciating and there was no new construction here, we forecast 3.5% long term. That happens to be a fairly conservative forecast when we look at other communities across the state, long-term trends. Oftentimes we see closer to 4, 4.5, or 5% growth, which is what we did consider in the medium and high scenarios. In terms of the financing terms that we looked at, we're really looking at 3 or 4 key assumptions. The first is interest rate, which is something that the city doesn't have direct control over, but can influence in terms of establishing any new debt to be as attractive as possible to the market. We looked at a range of rates for the new debt ranging from 4 up to 6%. Right now, we see a lot of debt of this nature in the 5% ballpark. That's at a fairly historically high level for the last 20 years. A lot of folks are estimating that that will go down again at some point in the future, but we don't know exactly when. And in our more conservative scenarios, we do assume that that goes up to 6% or so for future borrowings. We also looked at the debt service coverage ratio, and that is whenever a jurisdiction is looking at taking out debt and they have a revenue stream they want to pay that debt off with, they often want to see some sort of a cushion. So if you know you're bringing in $1 million a year of revenue, you might not want to set up debt service payments that are also $1 million a year because there's no cushion there, and every penny of your revenue is going to be needed to pay off that debt. Tax increment revenues happen to be ideal for having very low debt service coverage ratios. That's because they are a very stable and dependable revenue source that is also an increasing revenue source each year. There are very few revenue sources out there that you can have that sustained guaranteed growth of at least 3% in appreciation every single year. Even during the depths of recent recessions, property tax revenues continue to increase just due to the nature of Oregon's property tax system. So we looked at a range of different debt service coverage ratios, but all of them in the 1.1 to 1.25 range. Lastly, we looked at the amortization or the term or duration of debt. Longer term debt allows you to have smaller annual payments. And when you have a restricted cash flow like we have here, and you're trying to borrow a certain amount of revenue with a deadline of 2035, so you want to borrow as much as you can before you get to that 2035 date, stretching out the length of that amortization period helps you to borrow more money sooner. And so we looked at a range of 10, 15, and 20 years for the term of the indebtedness. And that is something that's largely within the city's control. The debt service coverage ratio, as well as the amortization period, are factors that the city can decide when they're structuring their future indebtedness. So with all of that range of scenarios that we came up with, again, we're focusing on the scenarios that have the most conservative growth in assessed value, but the more aggressive assumptions for future borrowings. We wound up forecasting the cash flow for this area for the next 12 years out to 2035. We showed some hypothetical borrowings that the city might do in the future. We showed one a few years from now and then another one in that 2035 final year to incur debt. And based on that, we do show that the area should come extremely close to being able to incur the full amount of indebtedness. This is all with very generic, what we call vanilla financing assumptions. And so the city has a municipal finance advisor that's on call contract with them that can provide more nuanced and detailed advice on how to structure more creative financing options. And I fully anticipate that in talking to that municipal finance advisor, there will be strategies including interest-only payments, lines of credit, varying the annual debt service contributions that will allow you to achieve that full amount of maximum indebtedness in the time frame that you're looking for. So our number one takeaway is that it does look like you are on track to achieve the full amount of maximum indebtedness in the stated time frame for this urban renewal plan. Another key finding that we had is that your cash flow in the short term does look to be a bit more constrained. So right now, this area is generating around $800,000 a year of tax increment finance revenues. We anticipate that in the coming years, that will increase to $1 million a year by 2026, $2 million a year by 2035, when this area needs to incur its debt by. But $800,000 a year today. The annual debt service payments for this area vary, but they're roughly $650,000 per year. So your annual cash flow at the moment is just slightly higher than your debt service payments. And that means you're not generating a lot of surplus cash. That makes it harder to take on more debt right now. And so that's, again, one of these areas where in order to invest in larger scale projects in the short to medium term, that'll be a conversation with your municipal finance advisor to look for appropriate debt structures that will allow you to incur debt now while structuring many of those payments to come in the maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So that's, I think, the overall summary of the analysis that we conducted. Sean, I don't know if our slide is on the screen showing the maximum indebtedness breakdown. I can't see a PowerPoint slide.
Carol, could you bring that up? Oh. Any way you can share your screen there, Nick?
Let me see here. We'll try to get that opened up here. Sorry, I didn't have the PowerPoint open myself. Okay.
It's in the folder. Yeah, we had some last minute numbers crunching because we're kind of doing this before the previous fiscal year is totally closed the books on, so some last minute adjusting some numbers.
Well, Council President, who has a question to fill the time?
Okay. Sure.
So the second building you're talking about is the Ava Coffee, right? Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if you saw, but they're working on the third story.
It's good to see.
Mm-hmm. Long time in the making.
Long time. So I will say that, oh, there it is. Great.
All right. So this, just to put some very specific numbers on the analysis, the total maximum indebtedness that Sean mentioned earlier, $42.8 million. So that's the hard limit on the total amount of debt that can be incurred cumulatively over the life of the district. Through the beginning of fiscal year ending 23, we show that 11.6 million of that had been incurred. Now, over the last year, we know that another 2 million-ish of debt had also been incurred. These numbers are looking back to the last official accounting of maximum indebtedness. That was at the beginning of 23. That meant that there was 31.2 million remaining. And again, we're looking at a time frame between now and 2035 to incur all of that debt. So that's $31 million of funding for projects. That plus the final bullet point here, available funding for projects we're saying is 38.2 million, and that's because in 2023 you had other funding sources. There was a beginning fund balance, there was the new debt that was incurred that we were talking about, some other revenue sources that came into the fold, and so when all that's said and done, we're looking at $38 million of expenditures from 2023 through 2035. A good chunk of that, roughly 7 million or so, is already well underway over the last fiscal year. And so that's 31 million that you're seeing on the remaining maximum indebtedness is probably a better picture of what you really have remaining from this point forward, because you have been active at building projects in this area over the past year. But again, these are the specific numbers to show you how much of your total capacity, how much has been used previously, and how much you have remaining in these coming years.
Thanks, Nick. So as you mentioned, there will be some near-term constraints in terms of what's available with the TIF and our debt service. But again, we'll be meeting with the agency's financial advisor, work out some borrowing plan, and we'll come back to you with a more fleshed out financial plan. And we want to still make progress on our implementation of the plan, even if there's some near-term constraints. We'll also be working with the TCAC to hear what their top priorities are in the short to medium term, and that'll inform the finance plan as well. So we will be doing a part 3 later this fall.
It feels like a catch-22, right? Like, we want to be able to encourage investment. To be able to encourage investment, we need to invest ourselves and have that funding, but we can't do that until there's more money. So I'd be interested to see after that conversation what creative ways could happen in order for us to continue to invest in the downtown area to encourage construction and updates. Any questions based on? Yeah, Councilor Wolf? Or, I'm sorry, Director Wolf.
Oh. Thank you, Sean. And I'm assuming when you come back in the fall with the finance plan, that will be married with the town center advisory kind of vision and all that will come together.
That's right.
Yeah, Director Shaw.
Thank you, Director Lube.
Chair.
Chair Lube. And thank you, Councilor Wolf, for asking that question. So does that also include a plan for projects, or what a vision of projects would look like?
Right.
Or
So
is
we
that getting too aggressive?
Well, we have a list of projects in the plan. Probably won't be able to fund all of them just because there's a long list in there. But working with the TCAC, we would develop their near-term priorities and match it with that. We are going to be able to take out a fairly large borrowing at the end of the district, because you get to pay off the debt continuing even though you're not taking out new borrowing. So that's kind of like a bookmark, or bookmark, I guess. But yeah, for the near term, we'll be hearing what the TCAC's priorities are. One thing that wasn't mentioned that I should have mentioned is that there are other sources that we can do some of these projects, including going after grants, which we have been successful at, looking at other sources of funding, especially for infrastructure from Washington County or Metro. So that's also in the mix.
City Manager Reimer.
Thanks, Mayor. Just following up on Director Shaw's question there, some of the information that Sean and Nick have provided. Tonight would be helpful for you to state some of the things that you'd like to see come back, just so it's clear, and make sure that we're meeting your expectations, and that the work we do provides the information you need for the next round of the conversation. So as Sean said, this is a conversation that we're trying to build each time. So what you hear tonight, what would be the pieces that would be helpful next time. So.
I mean, I think for me, what would be helpful looking at it is, this is really helpful to understand, between now and 2035. With 2035, odds are none of us at this table are still going to continue to be at this table. And so thinking about, especially on a finance plan, how much we can borrow when, to continue to spur development, and then perhaps marry that with, hey, here are some of the projects that could be funded, because maybe a project, we could only get $2 million, but it's like a $5 million project. Well, that's certainly not something we could prioritize without outside funding. So kind of, just a general list, I think, would be helpful so we could, help to marry that a bit. That's me speaking as just Heidi. So anybody else have, Councilor or Director Shaw?
Thank you. In listening to about the municipal finance advisor and some of the debt structure, that could be interesting as well. Maybe we get creative and even have a little risk taking there, because I know there's quite a few projects that are in line.
Yeah, Council President Hu?
Director.
Oh, sorry. Director who?
It's all right.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah, so I think I discussed this with City Manager Reimer. It's like I have an internal struggle with the parking situation. So, you know, on one hand, a study have shown we have empty spot a lot of time, but also we have feedback that people feel they don't have enough parking. So I just don't know where I'm landing on this, but maybe that's part of the feedback or the study that will package presentation will come back to us about parking. And even with, you know, if we're planning for mass transit, I assume there might be opportunity for park and ride. So sorry, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just saying that maybe there's some opportunity for parking, finance for parking, building. I'm not saying I'm for one way or the other, but I would like to see more options, maybe in terms of, you know, a parking option and financing. So.
Right. So we actually are going to be doing parking data collection in a couple weeks. So that'll be good information to have. I don't know that we'll have it, you know, answer the question, do we need a parking garage? But I do know those are very expensive to build, and that might be something that if we did it, it would have to come towards the end of the district when we had accumulated sufficient TIF. There's other ways to manage parking, though, including parking meters, perhaps, and that could raise funds that could pay for other items.
Yeah, I think to be clear, there's private parking available, but not public parking, which can be frustrating when you're looking for parking, you know, down Main Street or Burnham, and you see, you know, plenty of parking, but in the private areas. I think it's worth part of the discussion as we look long-term for the public works area, if that becomes a city hall, a dual use of, you know, serving City Hall during the day, but during events it becomes a public parking structure or something like that, where you could even, you know, charge instead of a parking meter. So I think, you know, there's a world of opportunity out there as we look forward, but it's not a solution right now, unfortunately. But it's a great question. Director Wolf?
Thank you, Chair Loop. I don't think I have anything in particular to add except for that to the best that can be detailed on projects as, you know, what kind of project will that look like, what is the likely debt or cost investment, and then some of just the financing, how that aligns, just so we can start to build a mental picture of timeline and what are our opportunities. So I think I'm just kind of agreeing with Chair Loop and Director Shaw. So thank you.
Analytical data people here. Do you feel like you have what you need in order to come back?
I do, and thank you for your input.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you all.
The next item on our agenda is a TIF district grant program update with Economic Development Specialist Escalera and Redevelopment Project Manager Fairley to present this item. Welcome.
Good evening again. So I'm here tonight with Tina Escalera, Economic Development Specialist, who administers the TIF improvement program. And also joining us online, we have Sydney Bray, the Live Edge Eco Salon on Main Street. She was a participant in the program in 2021. So she'll talk after our initial slides here about the program. Next slide. So the TIF Building Improvement Grant Programs, we have two different TIF districts and two different matching grant programs. They have slightly different goals and some slightly different guidelines. We're trying to get them more aligned, but I think in the Tiger Triangle we are trying to accomplish additional goals, and Tina will talk about that in a couple slides. I'll start with the city center. Next slide. This is our more mature program that we started in 2009 we called it the Facade Improvement Program. The goals were to improve the walkability of downtown, and in fact, first we limited the grants to buildings on Main Street, later opened it up to the rest of the TIF district. We really want to improve downtown's quality as a business district, to solidify its appeal for a place where there's small businesses, unique businesses, and in a walkable environment. So we've done a lot of exterior facade grants the first few years, and then we started thinking about tenant improvements or interior improvements. So we called it the Tenant Improvement Program first. Now it's called the Interior Improvement Program. But the main goal of this was to attract businesses to vacant properties. So we started that in 2013, and I think with that program we've attracted some really good catalytic businesses to downtown. The first business we awarded for that purpose was Symposium Coffee. Next slide. So we've done 33 grants, completed 33 grant projects in the downtown, and they've received matching grants. So we typically match 50% of the cost of eligible projects. And the leverage here is pretty good. So the minimum would be 1-to-1, right? If the businesses were only providing as much as they had to, be 1-to-1. But we've found that the leverage is $2.9 of private investment to every $1 in public investment. So we think it's a really good ratio, and showing success in the program. Next slide. This is an interactive map that's on our website that I should probably boost the people finding it, because I don't know that many people find it, but it basically shows all of the projects that we've done in the TIF district, the past, the present, and the future. And we've included all of the grant-funded projects on there, so you can click on them and get a little bit of information about the projects that were completed. So I'm going to turn things over to Tina for the next few slides, and she's going to go into some of the details of how the program works.
All right, good evening, members of the Town Center Development Agency. Thank you for having us tonight. I want to start off by going over some TIF grant recipient examples. So if we can move on to the next slide. The first business that we'll be looking at is Live Edge Eco Salon. Again, Sydney Bray is on the line watching, and we'll hear from her a little bit later, but these are some pictures of her business when she first applied for the TIF grant program. In these photos, you can see that the business required a complete interior demo before it could get upgraded. And then I also have some after pictures, if we could go to the next slide. As far as upgrades here, it's beautiful. If you haven't been in there, I've been in there. It's really nice, really large too. And so upgrades that were done here included demolition and removal of unwanted fixtures, new flooring, leveling to make the flooring ADA compliant, framing, and drywall installation. And then, as Sean mentioned as well, we do also have the exterior grant improvement. So I do have an example of that if we can move to the next slide. This is a property that is on Main Street that took advantage of the exterior improvement grant. So that's a before and an after picture. And then if we move to the next slide, I want to go over the Tiger Triangle TIF Business Opportunity Fund. Goals and objectives of these programs is to foster a diverse business community, enhance walkability, and business district quality. And these are all goals that are consistent with the vision of the Tiger Triangle. If we move to the next slide, we have it's a 50% funding match. It's up to $50,000 for eating and drinking establishments, up to $25,000 for other eligible businesses, and for covers interior, exterior renovations, again on vacant ground floor commercial spaces in the Tiger Triangle. And I do have an example of a recipient in the Tiger Triangle as well. If we move on to the next slide, we have photos here from El Jefe Mexican Grill. This was the first recipient of the Tiger Triangle Opportunity Fund grant. This applicant is quite special to me because we were able to help the applicant completely in Spanish from start to finish. So they were able to take advantage of our Spanish application. We were able to use our translating services with them. This is an example of when we remove language barriers, it does create more inclusive participation that is often hindered by that. So I wanted to definitely point that out. For this business, upgrades did include demolition and removal of unwanted fixtures, new flooring, installation of a commercial kitchen, and signage. If we move on to the next slide, the way it works as far as the process, we have applicant that submits an application. It is then reviewed by a grant committee, which consists of 2 TCDA members, 2 of them, Director Shaw and Director Wolf, are here today, and 2 TCAC members that determine the scope and the grant amount. I will then notify the applicant of the decision. The applicant will then, if they are granted an amount, will then submit at least 2 contractor bids. And then I will also issue a commitment funds letter, which outlines the details of the grant amount. The applicant will then contract for construction and has up to 1 year to be able to complete construction. The work is then reviewed before the funds are distributed. Next slide. We have improvements for the new fiscal year. We have raised the grant to $75,000 for eating and drinking establishments in the city center TIF district. The Triangle Business Opportunity Fund is now open to existing businesses for exterior improvements only. And we have updated our scoring guidelines with city council goals, such as sustainability goals, by encouraging energy efficient upgrades to their business. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Sean to introduce Sydney.
Thanks, Tina. So we wanted to invite a participant in the program, and Sydney Bray from Eco Salon, Live Edge Eco Salon, that is, agreed to tell us about her experience. So Sydney, if you could just walk everybody through, and just want to let everyone know that Sydney has a newborn baby at home, so in case there's any unexplained crying going on.
Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Sydney Bray. I own Live Edge Eco Salon. With my company, I was first in downtown Oregon City. So we have a salon there, and we've been there for 8 years and really wanting to expand over to the west side. I grew up here in Oregon City, and downtown Tigard seemed like the perfect place to be. Love the community, love what everyone is doing down there. And then also I have some employees that live there as well, so it made it really easy. When looking for a place, I knew I wanted to be in the downtown area, but the only spaces where I could afford the rent needed a ton of work to do. And so this grant really, really helped us and propelled us forward in order to be able to cover a lot of those costs. Although we had to do things like it said, the drywall and the flooring, there was also just so much work that had to be done with electrical and plumbing, and especially to get everything up to code. Definitely needed it to be ADA, approved and all of that. So a lot went into making it even workable. That building had crazy stuff hidden in the walls, had weird wiring, and lots of fun stuff. I'd say like even like wine bottles in the walls. Like that's what was happening over there. But this grant just really, really did so much for us to be able to afford it. And working with the city council. So I worked with Dylan, and he's no longer there, but it just was a super easy process. Everyone was very friendly, got me where I needed to go, what I needed to do. And so I just, honestly, it was very simple on my side, right? I had to definitely put effort into it and share my case with everyone. But at the end of the day, it was a smooth process. Really appreciate it. And it's cool to see the map on there of all the other businesses as well that have taken advantage of it. Because these old historic kind of buildings need to be renovated and not just torn down by like big developers to go in and then also have high rent for those new buildings. So my landlord from my Oregon City location bought the building so I could be his tenant. And so together we did all this. So my experience was great. I have encouraged some other businesses around there to kind of go for it too. And thank you guys for doing that. Without that, it would have been really, really hard to get where we are. And it's 2 years in, you know, and we've been open for a year, and we're loving downtown Tigard. We're thriving, meeting so many new people, being part of the community, doing all the fun events, and we are excited to keep doing more. So thank you for doing this for us and including us and welcoming us to the Tigard community.
Thanks, Sydney.
Yeah.
So,
is there anything else I need to answer?
well, if the board has any questions for you, we might want to let Sydney go because her newborn at home.
Director Shaw?
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations. I believe that was one of my first votes, and just to see your business
cool.
thrive, and in particular in downtown, is just exactly what we're looking to achieve. So thank you and congratulations on your newborn.
Thank you so much. Yes, and also because of that too, like I just like to say too, with our salon, we are an employee salon. So it's not booth rentals or anything. So actually opening this up is employing 10 more people in our community. And then also everyone at the salon loves to get their lunch and coffee and shop all around. So we have been enjoying the community for sure.
Yes, Director Who?
Very quickly, Sydney, I've been to your salon during the wine walk, and I just think it's so beautiful inside. So welcome to Tigard, and thank you for your inclusive display on your windows. It really made me feel welcome in your store. Thank you.
That's so awesome to hear. Thank you so much. I'm glad you came in and saw us. And yeah, inclusivity is big for our salon.
Well, thank you. We will let you go. We've had newborns, so Godspeed to you.
Yeah, I have a newborn and a 1-year-old, so it's been fun. All right, thank you guys. Keep doing great work.
Thank you. So, any questions for Tina and I? By the way, this is Tina's first council presentation.
Oh, you did great. Thank you. Director Who?
Sorry if I should know this already. So I'm just wondering why the matching grant was increased only in town center, in downtown, but not in the Tigard Triangle by $25,000.
So that was a strong recommendation from the TCAC that at least at first, we try to attract restaurants and drinking establishments to downtown rather than the Triangle. In the future, I think we'll also increase it to 75 in the Triangle, but at least initially, when there's such broad-based interest in getting more restaurants downtown specifically, the recommendation was to only have that increased amount available in the city center, and I think it makes sense because of the effort we're expending, and that's we kind of want to develop that Main Street as a restaurant destination. I would say, I think it's getting there, but I think we need a few more so people, when they think about, not only who live in Tigard, but in the region, hey, let's go to Main Street. There's a lot of good restaurants there to choose from.
So second question, since we only granted AVAD 300 instead of 400, does that mean we could possibly have another more matching grant in downtown, or it doesn't work like that?
So that's a separate program, development assistance. Yeah, so that's for new construction, new buildings. This is for specifically to improve existing buildings, either the interior or exterior. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Director Shaw?
Thank you, and thank you so much, Economic Development Specialist Esclair. I get to say that instead of just your first name, Tina, and Project Management. Question for you both. We've heard from the community they really want drinking and eating establishments downtown. We hear from the chamber that there's a lot of empty businesses. We hear from fellow downtown business owners there may be some empty businesses. You're obviously trying to attract a number of restaurants and drinking establishments. What can we do to help fill that pipeline? Is it more advertising? Is it more word of mouth? Is it going to other cities and recruiting those establishments to Tiger? Because I know, we've often said, let's get more, but how can we do that?
Well, I think, word has gotten out about our increased grant amount for eating and drinking establishments. I know that one of the spaces that was empty is being filled by an eating establishment, and they may be applying for a grant. So we've gotten the word out to some brokers. We have let the property owners know, and they are the key in this. They, we can't force a property owner to open a restaurant. They have to be willing and maybe wait for that right tenant to come along. The TDA, I think, is also key. The chamber, I met with the chamber a couple weeks ago, and they mentioned they may want to help us get the word out among their members or the members' friends who might have a restaurant somewhere else that would want to move downtown. So there's a lot of different things involved, and when we do have a new TIF-funded position, project manager, that could also be something they could work on.
I almost want to ask you, is it public which restaurants coming in, or what's coming in?
Tina?
I think you're referring to the one next to the wine place. Okay. Yes, so it's Exotic Nutrition. So Maxie is the owner there. She's a Spanish speaker, new business owner there. Her business was in the Tigard Plaza, and she recently moved to Main Street. She does protein shakes there, and she's going to be doing crepes and protein waffles and breakfast, but she is possibly going to be applying for a grant. I did meet with her this morning, so helping her connect with one of our business resources to get a business plan before she can apply.
No, that's cool. Thank you for sharing. We wish her the best of luck. Yes. My question is actually the Tiger Triangle Opportunity Fund grant. It says it will be open to existing businesses for exterior improvements only. So does that mean, in theory, like we wouldn't have been able in the future, like a El Jefe wouldn't be able to come in and get the same funding that we gave to them in order to stand up? How did the grant change?
So before the changes for the new fiscal, it was only open to new businesses. Now it'll be open to existing businesses as well, but just on the facade, so exterior.
Gotcha. Okay, so the slide, yeah, so new and existing, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we weren't cutting off, because I really enjoyed rubbing it in Beaverson's face that they put their roots down in Tigard. So I'd like to continue to do that anytime we can. So, sorry, Mayor Beatty. Those are my questions. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, Thank you so much for that information, and I love this program. It's one of the committees that I miss sitting on, being able to see the innovative, exciting things that people wanted to do, and much like Live Eco Salon, seeing it come to fruition. It's really pretty cool. That grant program is changing the face of downtown. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We will reconvene the Tigard City Council for the remainder of the agenda. And the next item on our agenda is Tigard Home, which is Housing Opportunity, Mobility, and Ease. And we have Assistant Community Development Director McGuire and Associate Planner Pollard will be here to update us. Welcome.
Okay, good evening.
I'm working on the presentation. Stand by.
I believe IT is going to help me share my slides tonight. And I also want to give a disclaimer that I'm having a little trouble hearing out of my right ear these days. So I'm a little discombobulated, and if you could speak up, that would be very helpful. So they should be sharing the slides for me any minute now. But good evening, Mayor Lube and councilors. My name is Hope Pollard. I'm an associate planner in the Community Development Department. Here with Tom McGuire, Assistant Director of the Community Development Department, and we're here to talk to you guys tonight about the Tigard Home Project, which, as the mayor mentioned, stands for Housing Opportunity, Mobility, and Ease. The first slide is not all that important visually, so I'm just gonna jump right in. When we first introduced the project in May of last year, there it is. If we could go on to the next slide, please, Eric. When we first introduced this project last year, urban agriculture was part of the scope. However, due to the significant public comment we were receiving on that topic at the time, we were directed to fast track that component, and we worked really quickly but really closely with the community to develop a solution, and that was adopted in November of last year. So it's been a while since some of you have heard about the Home project and its larger scope, and maybe the first time hearing about that larger scope for others. So we're just here to introduce that again and talk about some of the work we've been doing this year on that larger scope. So the Tigard Home project aims to allow for complete residential communities that maximize opportunity for community members while mitigating potential nuisances and hazards for neighbors. Next slide, please. Much of the city of Tigard is zoned for residential use, what we planners call the Sea of Yellow, although it's a little bit more of a sea of orange these days following recent state-mandated zoning updates. While the zoning has provided plenty of opportunities for community members to dwell in Tigard, it has limited the ability of these communities to become truly complete neighborhoods. So if you all remember the Complete Streets project, where the goal was to create streets that are accessible to a variety of mobility types, you can think of this as its neighborhood counterpart. Complete neighborhoods where you can find community, entertainment, services, and even work close to where you live. This is a project we're really excited about and planning, but we're not doing it just because we think it's a good idea. Public engagement for long-range planning projects in Tigard over the past many years has consistently indicated that residents want to be able to walk to more things, they want more freedom over how they use their home or their property, they want more straightforward processes for sharing or selling what they make with their neighbors, and they want more attractive and safe pedestrian connections. So this project responds to the community feedback we've been hearing for years and also addresses city goals to be more climate responsible by potentially reducing vehicle miles traveled in Tigard. The idea of complete neighborhoods could mean allowing a degree of non-residential activity in residential neighborhoods. So this is a really big deal with potential huge changes. So the overwhelming biggest focus needs to be on the community, what they want and what they need. That's why community outreach is so important for this project. It's pretty much all we're going to talk about tonight, and it's pretty much the entire project for the foreseeable future. We're going to do engagement a little differently this time too. We've developed a plan that prioritizes building trust and building relationships on the front end before diving too deeply into any specific solutions. Our vision is to build teams of community planners, rather than extract limited information in the form of surveys or one-off events. This is a project where we will truly develop with and not just at or for the community. We'll have big general teams made up of those who attend our larger events, and a power team, the Community Advisory Committee or CAC, built of dedicated individuals who are as excited about this project as we are. We'll work together with our teams to help them clarify and then realize their visions for their neighborhoods. Next slide, please. Right now, we're in the earliest stages of an engagement. We're starting with methods, once again, focused on building relationships with community members, letting people know that we're listening, that we genuinely care what they think, and that we want to connect and find ways to be better partners to them in their neighborhoods. So I'll get to what these pictures are showing in just a second, but I do also want to emphasize that we've consistently heard directly from residents, from community-based organizations, and from educational planning resources that traditional city engagement methods often run the risk of being too stale or too unapproachable or inequitably difficult for some groups to attend. We've also heard that when engaging with historically marginalized communities, we need to be prepared to have larger discussions and spend time building trust before getting into, before anyone is willing to or able to talk about project-specific issues. Traditional engagement methods with tight timelines and limited resources don't lend themselves to working through this process. We see this project's enormous geographical and theoretical scope as an opportunity to slow down and do engagement right, starting with building relationships and trust with all our community members. So there are a couple of ways that we're doing this so far, and we're still kind of testing out methods at this phase. So one of the ways we're doing this is by hosting tables at various locations through the city. So we've done this at coffee shops, shopping centers. Tina mentioned Tigard Plaza. We've posted up outside of Tigard Plaza with a Spanish interpreter a couple of times, and parks. We set up a table with these lovely posters. I like to think they're lovely because I made them. Having residents answer questions about what it's like to live in Tigard and what they'd like to see more of. Once again, we have Spanish interpretation where possible, although we do recognize this is currently, unfortunately, a limited resource for us at the city. The idea behind this approach is to meet residents where they are, at Tigard locations they already enjoy visiting, usually during lunch hours for conversations that require no more than a few minutes commitment. With this method, this ear is really messing me up. We are focused more on being listeners than on extracting information that will directly inform home. At tables, we seek to learn more about anything and everything residents want to tell the city. We've consistently heard a desire for more parks, helps for the homeless, and sidewalk improvements. We've heard love for the safety, trees, and trails in Tigard, and we have met people who genuinely just love getting involved with their communities. And we've encouraged these people to stay involved with this project so we can work with them as the project moves forward. Wherever possible, we also pass on information to other departments or planners. So you guys were just asking Sean and Tina about downtown and how we can encourage more businesses to go down there. One of the things we hear constantly at the tables is, gosh, I just want more to walk to in downtown, which you all know. So our lovely new community engagement specialist, I don't know her exact title, Judy Martin, has been working really hard with our design and communications team to develop what we're calling a community development one-pager. And this is basically allows us to hand out on one page everyone's business card and CD, so that no matter what kinds of questions people come up with at these tables, usually they're not home specific, usually they have to do with downtown or sidewalks or something like that. Now we can give them this one pager, give them a little bit of information on what we're doing in those areas, and then encourage them to contact Sean or Tina or Dave regarding whatever project they're interested in. And of course, we're also putting together a more in-depth account of responses so the council can review more citywide types of requests or questions, such as the concerns regarding houselessness. And of course, Councillor Wolf helped at one of the tabling events, and I believe we heard some questions about Hall Boulevard and houselessness, and we were able to encourage folks that we had projects going on around Hall Boulevard, and that houselessness is one of the council's top priorities. So once again, we're always trying to also share information about other departments. Next slide, please. So over the summer, we wanted to take advantage of the good weather by taking the meeting people where they are approach a few steps further. We took a food truck actually out to 2 locations so far, with one more coming in September, in neighborhoods we previously identified as socially vulnerable. The idea of the food truck was to make sure we're able to talk to residents in a more comfortable setting where we're focused on providing a service rather than on extracting information. We offered a free meal to anyone who showed up, and most people wanted to stop and talk to us just because it felt natural, rather than because they felt forced, as our engagement activities run the risk of doing. We had a Spanish interpretation available and brought the truck directly to neighborhoods in the evenings after work hours, with the expectation that it would create a more natural environment for discussion, would send the signal that the city genuinely cares for the people who live here, and would reach people who might not necessarily have the means to visit commercial locations at the tables, particularly during work hours. And we also hoped it might just demonstrate what a small amount of non-residential activity in a residential neighborhood could look like. The pictures shown here are from our first event in a neighborhood along Greenberg Road, and this was such a fun event. We had 89 people show up, lots of families, and it really felt like a block party. People appreciated us being there. Everybody just couldn't believe that they were actually just getting free food from the city and that we were there in such a casual environment. People didn't quite believe it at first, but then once they realized they were actually getting free food, they would yell out to their neighbors and be like, "Come on, let's go!" So it was very casual, and at the helm of it all, it's the city of Tigard. So I think even just optically, it was really a great exercise. About half of the attendees were Spanish speakers. Most of these attendees did appear uncomfortable sharing information with the city, so this just affirmed the intent of this event, which was that it was for building trust and that we will have to continue to do more trust-building exercises before some folks are willing to share their ideas. Overall, though, people felt really valued, constantly expressed their gratitude we were there, and while some were reluctant to share, we had a really good number of people stop and talk to us at length about their communities and what they want to see in Tigard. Next slide, please. At each taco truck event, we have the same 2 questions available. So I love going to, and what community means to me. These questions allow us to observe what means the most to people, how they see themselves connecting with their neighbors, and what kinds of services they enjoy most, and might even desire closer to home. These questions have opened us up to a lot of really great discussion and illuminated some potential solutions already. People tend to like the idea of a community posting board, of more dog bag stations, and block parties. These conversations also allow us, once again, to meet people who want to be more involved in community planning. And once again, we encourage these folks to stay involved with home by guiding them to our website, which is the final way we're currently engaging with folks. And I also want to give a plug to anyone who's listening from the community. And if anyone's listening and you want to learn more, please Google us, get involved. Next slide, please. So at all our events, we hand out flyers leading folks to our engagement page, which is available in multiple languages, where they can answer more questions or sign up to volunteer for the Community Advisory Committee, or CAC. Tabling started in February, actually on the day of the snowstorm, if you all remember. While people weren't exactly keen on stopping to talk to us in the freezing cold, we did see a jump in activity on our engagement site that week. Throughout the prime time of all of our tabling efforts, which was from about February to April of this year, we had anywhere from 8 to 37 visitors view our Engage page after each tabling event. During that time, 3 people applied to be a part of the CAC, and 5 people shared ideas for things they'd like to walk to, including a bike repair shop and a grocery store. We also saw spikes in the engagement page visitors after each taco trunk event, with 34 to 47 visitors after each event. During this time, 5 more people applied to be a part of the CAC or signed up to learn more, and 5 shared ideas for things they'd like to walk to, including a store where people can sustainably refill their own containers with cleaning supplies, and more dining and entertainment options. So to summarize all our engagement goals, it's kind of like a funnel or a spectrum from appreciative audience member to community partner. Level 1 being the people who just appreciate the candy bowl at the table or the free taco and enjoy that we're out in the community and this makes the city look more approachable. Level 2, people stop and talk to us, share their thoughts, although not always directly about home. And level 3, they fill out the questions in person or online with thoughts that directly influence home. And level 4 is they sign up to be a part of that CAC. Now, it's important to note that this is a new way of engagement in a lot of ways, so we're still testing out what works best and most efficiently. But we're encouraged by the response so far, and we've also just applied for a Metro 2040 planning grant, which, if awarded, would help fund this engagement, including allowing us to hire a community, what we're calling community ambassadors. These ambassadors would help us with interpretation and translation into more than just English, and would also help build community excitement for the project. Next slide, please. So once again, because this project impacts residential neighborhoods, we are relying really heavily on the people who live here to identify solutions that work best for the scale and character of their neighborhoods. Community engagement events will be used firstly to build relationships and discussion with a wide variety of community members. By the end of next year, this will translate into the selection of individuals for a Community Advisory Committee, or CAC. To simplify the jumbled wording on this slide here, from now through 2024, we'll be hosting regular community events and meetings that grow steadily more solutions focused throughout the year, while providing regular updates to both the Planning Commission and City Council. And then throughout 2025, we'll be developing code and non-code solutions with the CAC. And by the end of 2025, we'll be bringing solutions to the council for adoption. So this might feel like a very long timeline for a project, but it's important to remember that this project is huge in both its geographical scope and in the types of changes it's considering. So this covers all our residential neighborhoods in the entire city, and it looks at the possibility of introducing some non-residential activity to residential neighborhoods, which is a very understandably touchy topic. So we won't be moving forward with solutions-based planning until we feel very comfortable and very consistent with community members. So this timeline could always be advanced more quickly if we feel that we're reaching a consensus with community members sooner, but it will all be dependent on that. So that's all I have today. Next slide, please. Just thank you for your time, and Tom and I are available to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilor Wolf.
So first, I just thank you both. I mean, I appreciate the depth and the breadth and the reset on how you engage, and I think it'll be very exciting. I'll speak for myself. When we come back and go, how did you engage, right? And you have this fantastic list of authentic ways to connect with our community and hear what they have to say. So I'm really excited, and I also really appreciate the time to be at the library. And the one I will add is the mom juggling all her kiddos who said she'd really like a community center in Tigard. So that's the one that stuck with me as well. So thank you.
Councilor Singh.
Thank you. Really proud to be part of Tigard after this presentation. Just excited about this project. And one of the questions I had was about the Community Advisory Committee. It seems like they're going to play a big role and heavy lift, and I'm just wondering if there's going to be any incentives provided to them, stipends, childcare, interpretation. I know, from my experience, it really helps retain community members for the long term, and this seems like a long-term project that I think it could benefit. So just wondering if that's taken into account.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I think it's really important, especially when we're talking about those marginalized communities, that it's such a lift even to, even for them to accept that we're offering free food. So to then participate in the long-range planning project consistently, we understand will take some assistance at the very least. So definitely looking at, flexible timings, remote options, childcare options, free food, financial stipends and incentives are always an option. We just have to make sure that people don't exceed the $600 a year or whatever. So I actually just sent out an invite to the 8 people who have expressed interest in the CAC so far, and invited them to have a meal with me so we could just learn more about what their neighborhood is like and see what kinds of things they might be in need of assistance for in order to like continue to participate. That's also one of the questions when people sign up for interest in the CAC is like, do you need any accommodations, so that we can be aware of that going into it. So I think we'll gauge, you know, people's interest and availability and then see what level of assistance they need from there.
Councilor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really excited about this new approach. I think you've taken a page out of community-based organizations. I think building that trust and the relationship, it does take time, but it's so valuable, particularly long-term. The question I have is, do you promote to those neighborhoods that you're coming so that they have an idea in advance? And it sounds like you're going to be doing that in almost every part of Tigard. That's my first question.
Yeah, for now, we just chose 3 neighborhoods. One, while we're trying to kind of pilot this approach and see about the cost and the efficiency and if people were even going to show up. So we chose 3 neighborhoods. So we haven't done all of Tigard just yet, but that is the goal with this project. And we do send out flyers. The first event, we hand-delivered flyers door to door, and it seemed like we got a better turnout than the second event where we mailed flyers. So we're still testing everything out, but yeah, we notified the immediate area so that we don't get people from all over Tigard coming to this one spot. But yes.
Great, thank you. And then with regards to the CAC, is there a limit of number of folks, or it's going to be growing given you're going to be going to so many different communities?
It's definitely going to be growing. There will be a limit at some point if we just get out of control with interest. We haven't discussed what that limit might look like. But yeah, I imagine we might get a lot of interest considering we've already had 8 people sign up. So yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Great. And then last question. Mayor, if I may, the Metro grant, would that also possibly include, given Councilor Singh's question and concerns about sort of those stipends, is that something that grant, if awarded, can also be applied for those costs?
I believe it could also be used for stipends. We do have like a loose budget that we sent in, kind of allocating funds, but it's all shift aroundable as long as it's directly relating to community engagement. And also, we are going to be paying for those community ambassadors. Those will be paid positions if we get the grant. So those people at the very least will be getting, you know, more than a stipend. They'll be getting compensated.
Council President Hu.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll be the 4th counselor to say I appreciate your thoughtful engagement process, and you know, it does take time, and I appreciate that. Recently, I was visiting a couple of Chinese-speaking business in downtown with Officer Worth, and I was his translator. Even with translation, they were very reluctant to tell me what's wrong with their business. I just asked them, do you have any problem with the construction, with houseless? And they all say, no, everything's perfect, which is big contrast to some of their neighboring businesses. So it does take time. So thank you for that. I have 2 quick questions and maybe comments. One is, I think when you first presented, when I was a planning commissioner, I think my comment is that I support this concept, but my concern is that I could not walk easily in my neighborhood. You know, I have no sidewalks, not even, you know, gaps on the street. So sometimes when I feel brave, I can walk to the park half a mile away, but most of the time I just like, you know, this is too dangerous. So I don't know the solution to that, so hopefully that will be built into the code that, you know, without sidewalks, this may not be a good idea in certain neighborhoods. Second question, and I don't know, and I also don't know the answer to, I recently talked with my neighbor of, you know, almost 20 years, and I was very excited about this, but she just quickly poo-poos like, you know, if there's a convenience store at the corner, I'm not going to buy eggs there. I'm just going to drive to Costco because I'm very sure that it's going to be more expensive than Costco. So I don't know how to answer. Maybe one day I'll ask you to talk with her. I don't know. So you know, if we want this, we want the business to be successful, right? So I'm sure she's not the only person thinking it's going to be more expensive at the corner store. So I can just easily drive to Costco. So I don't want to answer right now. I don't know we have answer to that, but just those 2, I just want to point that out. So thank you so much.
Is she also factoring in the gas that she's spending to get to Costco? I mean,
she has Costco gas, so.
I'm just trying to think of creative ways of, you know.
I don't know the answer, so.
Yeah, but if you the sidewalks, you know, then it's not necessarily safe to walk to the store. Yeah. I will just echo everyone and say, yes, I love this creative sort of method, and really centering, you know, reducing the barriers to getting people to speak with us. I don't know if it would be better or worse to offer council to come with you, maybe just letting us know, hey, this is the next event, and one of us can go, to help continue to build that community trust, if that would be helpful at all. I think prior to COVID, we were very passionate about coming to you in your neighborhood, and COVID sort of put a damper on that, but I think this council would probably support, we are happy to come to where you are. So anytime that you want us there, please shoot us an email.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Any other additional questions or comments? Excellent. Thank you. We don't have any non-agenda items this evening, and we do not have an executive session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Is there? Okay, the motion to adjourn has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Good night, Tigard.